seen this yet.
Just trying to get this thing. Okay, meeting please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Levine, Thunderbird, Barad, Noonan, Vasquez.
This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have no opening remarks. I hear we have one public comment card.
Yes. Public speaker is Rafe Exad. You can come up to the little podium.
Come up
right
to
here,
the
sir.
mic.
And please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. So I am representing Salman Aksad and Muhammad Ahad. So we are disputing a case that was made against us. So we purchased, well, we didn't purchase, we bid a property for a parking lot somewhere in downtown. The DWP puts it on bid every couple years or so. So we got it in January 2016. And we had a case manager, and we were waiting for about 2 years for a response from the DWP to give us, the approval for the lease. And I guess it went to another case manager by Masood Sabori. And as soon as he got the position, I guess a couple months later, January 24th, we received a letter rejecting the bid and refunding our money. We had no further explanation as to why that happened, and we wanted to dispute what was going on. When my father spoke to Masood in a meeting with him, he talked about what's going on, how come, we weren't getting this, it's been 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And Masood said that I guess they wanted part of the land to do some electric vehicle charging stations or something like that. And we were compliant. My dad said, well, that's fine, how many do you need? And as soon as he said that, he just brushed off the subject and continued talking about something else and pressing questions as to, oh, how did you guys acquire this land? Why was it on bid? How did you guys hear about this bid? And all this, which was kind of silly because, he had all the documentation on his desk, so he should have known how this is going. So we wanted to see if we can dispute this or maybe get another case manager and, hopefully we can get this resolved. And we already had some parts of the deed signed by Senior Assistant General Manager, and it's just waiting approval by David Wright and Barbara Mostros. So hopefully if we can get that resolved, that would be great. So we can just conduct business and, get things going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
General Manager report.
Yes, I'd like to go over 2 items. One is in mid-November, because of basically happening throughout the United States and challenges and concerns, I directed that every employee would take workplace harassment and abusive conduct prevention training, which we titled Preventing Sexual Harassment. I did want to let you know in that 6-week period we had a 94% compliance rate. Some people were obviously gone. By the end of January, we had a 97% compliance rate. I think it's important that our customers know that we value a workplace free of harassment, free of abuse, a place where you should come to work and feel safe. And felt very strongly about that. And with the adherence by that percentage of staff, it shows you how important that they also placed working that training into a very tight holiday period to that percent level. I think that's very positive reflection on our staff. Switching to another one, though, related to staffing. As you know, we advertise a number of positions and recruit for a number of positions. About every 2 or 3 years, we recruit for customer service rep. The last time we did that over a 3-day period, we had close to 30,000 applicants. We're making people aware right now on our website that from 8 a.m. Tuesday, February 20th until 11:59 p.m. Thursday, February 22nd, we will be taking applications, and literally in that 3-day period, we usually get about 30,000 people to apply. So I did want to let you know, in case you've got avenues that you wanted to communicate that. I've seen it on Facebook already, so we are out there communicating that, and we get a lot of responses. You can see by 30,000 applicants in 3 days. So I want to let you know that, and everybody else who might be watching that, if they're interested, to please apply. That's it.
That's it. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations.
I have a couple of comments.
Commissioner Funderburk?
Yes. One, I want to thank the energy efficiency, the water conservation, LICO, is that what it's called, Dave? LICO or LICO, L-I-C-O, our low-income group, Susanna Reyes.
I don't think we have an acronym yet
Okay.
for that, but that's a good one, so we do.
Okay. No, I'm bad at acronyms and names, so. But I wanted to thank them for coming here to meet with a group of pastors who were led by the person who we've been able to partner with down in Watts, Reverend Max Shorty, who is no longer actually living in Watts. He lives in South Central, up on near Vernon Street. But we had a very productive meeting, and I want to thank all the staff, especially for the just very tight and concise presentations. These are community leaders, and they are going to go out to the other denominations and to the other faiths to put together an interfaith, interracial coalition of people to get the word out about incentives for not just low income, but just multifamily and everything else where we're not getting the penetration that we need. So I want to thank the staff for preparing for that, because they did put a lot of time and effort doing that. The second thing is, I've had kind of ongoing discussions with one of our people and just done some research on what we do with the Metropolitan Water District, which I know we have. How much do we spend there, Marty, every year? About 100 to 200 million, or 50 to 2 to 300 million. So I would like to ask if Richard, if Dave Pettyjohn could communicate to our delegation at Metropolitan Water District and get a response back from Metropolitan Water District how they are implementing and carrying out and believe they should carry out the equity metrics directive that we passed 2 years ago, because that is supposed to not just apply to DWP, it's supposed to apply to every contractual relationships that DWP has for purchase. So if you could ask Dave to please do that, I would appreciate it. And I have a comment on the minutes, but I'll deal with that when that comes up. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Other comments from commissioners? Ratepayer advocate.
I have a brief comment on one item, but I'm not suggesting any recommendations be changed. My comment is on item 14 regarding biomass. I think the department has done a good job reducing the cost of this state mandate, that it's a mandate designed to help another industry and not control any of our emissions. But the power costs roughly 3 times what we might have been able to obtain power for.
Okay. Okay, we move to management reports. I understand there's a request to defer 6A. I assume that doesn't need a motion, councilors. Is that correct? To defer a management report? Rich?
That is correct.
Okay. So we move to, well, 6B is going to also be item 21, but I assume we wish to have the management report prior. So cone valve for the Grant Lake outlet valve replacement projects, 6B.
So actually, we brought 6B and 6C to you today. They're both actually on the agenda, but we wanted to highlight them in an effort to show how we're making progress on our infrastructure reliability program. You know, the department's, or the water system's distribution system, including transmission, extends all the way from the Mono Basin all the way down to San Pedro, 350 miles. And we wanted to highlight one portion of that in our northernmost border, and I'm going to ask Jim Yonata to come, and it's about a valve that we're replacing up there that's key to the long-term reliability of us gathering water in the aqueduct. And then we'll move on to item 6C, which is no small effort that we're doing. It represents the ability for us to further our capital improvement program to the tune of $2.575 billion. The item before you today on that one is not an expenditure of that, but allowing the use of an alternate delivery process to be able to deliver on all those projects. You know, we've been blessed by our ratepayers and the ratepayer package that we have. And when I took my position, I told people I thanked Dave and Marty for the hard work of getting that rate package through, but I had to deliver on it. And so our folks are sending off all of this money through the rates, and we need to get them a reliable infrastructure. So we just wanted to use these two projects today to show and to highlight how we're getting to that point. So Jim, if you'll start us off with your rotovalve.
Thanks, Rich. Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Yonata, Manager of the LA Aqueduct. As part of our infrastructure improvement, we want to make sure that our aqueduct is is in excellent condition and is safe to operate. And critical to reservoirs is the ability for us to safely operate and to blow water off if necessary. This first slide here just shows the aqueduct itself, and Grant Lake is the very northernmost part of our aqueduct, just south of the Levining Inlet. So it's probably about 320 miles north of Los Angeles. And this is a picture of Grant Lake. Grant Lake actually faces southwest. And we're going to be looking at this portion of it, the southern or the lowermost portion of the reservoir, which is here. So this is a north arrow here, south. The reservoir faces this way, southwest. Now, at this location, there is a shaft house that has this rotovalve. It's a very large valve. I'll get more detail later. But what that valve does, it allows us to release water into the Grant Lake outlet tunnel that serves two purposes. We have an obligation to provide water into Rush Creek, and that's done through this area, through the Mono Gate 1 building. We release water into the Mono Gate ditch, which then puts water into Rush Creek for the riparian area along the creek, which is a requirement that we had to achieve under our Mono Lake agreement, and to also put water back into Mono Lake. So ordinarily we would be flowing there. However, based on the elevation of Mono Lake, we have the ability to export. Depending on the elevation, April 1, as long as we're above 6380, we'll be able to export 16,000 acre foot. And that's done here. We could release water, and it basically goes east into this red arrow here, and it goes into the 11-mile Mono Craters Tunnel. And once water leaves that tunnel, it's now in the Round Valley, Long Valley area, and it really puts water into the Upper Owens River. So that's what the operation of the valve does, but even more importantly, we have to have a safe valve there in case we have any issues with the dam. It's a requirement by the State Department of Dam Safety that we be able to blow water off as necessary, lower the elevation if we have a problem with the dam, and the valve needs to be exercised on an annual basis. So the valve itself is 76 years old. It's reached its life expectancy. So not only do our staff recommend that we replace it, but the State Department of Dam Safety is also recommending that we replace this valve. So this is a good opportunity. This is just a picture of the rotovalve. Basically, it's a cone valve. When you operate it, it lifts the cone up a little bit, and then you could rotate it. The reason why you want to lift it is because if you just tried to turn that valve, it would rip the seats off. The valve itself weighs 44,000 pounds. So, and it's about the size of the panel of wood behind President Levine. That's how big this rotovalve is. And again, it's essential for us to upgrade our, upkeep our aqueduct system. And being involved with the aqueduct, I have the privilege of go visiting these sites. In fact, I was in the shaft house. It's 80 foot below grade. This is the shaft house itself. There's 3 landings. You have to be lanyard off to make sure you could safely go down on that ladder. And the valve is right here. So it's going to be a job that'll be performed by our field forces up in Bishop. And it'll be quite an undertaking once we get this valve. But the water actually flows out of... I'm sorry?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Do they have the experience to do this?
Oh, yes.
You said the valve, this valve hasn't been replaced in 67 years.
No, well, this valve has never been replaced.
Right.
So this is an opportunity. We have waterworks mechanics, we've got engineers, we have people that are familiar with working on these sort of facilities. We do that in the city of LA. We're doing it up in the aqueduct. These are the same crews that when we reline the aqueduct. Our people are very ingenious and methods. But this is typical mechanical engineering, waterworks mechanical work where we'll go in there, we'll prep everything. We've got to make sure it's sealed off properly. We have a double block and bleed so that when we're in here, there will be no chance of any seepage water harming our employees. We're going to likely have to remove all the platforms to be able to remove the existing valve and to place the new valve in. We're also going to be buying a new shutoff valves and so forth.
Thanks, Jim. In fact, you're going to have to take the roof off the shaft house to
Oh,
get
yeah.
the...
Yeah, part of it is
valve
we're
in.
going to have
So
to
it's a big
remove...
job.
Yeah, it's a concrete roof. We'll have to remove that.
Yeah. So it's a great question that you asked, and I think I mentioned it the last time. Our crews on both water and power system are unique in the ability to do all sorts of work, including this in the system. Jim is almost as old as that valve, in fact.
Thank you, Richard.
And we're
A couple of decades younger.
I'm getting to a point
about
here.
3 decades younger.
Unfortunately, we're going to be replacing Jim. Jim announced his retirement earlier this year, and I'm going to try to keep him here as long as we can. But when Jim went up, how long ago?
Over 6 years now.
So he basically had a kind of a back to the basics initiative along the aqueduct, and just making sure that we maintain and operate the system to its peak performance. So this is just an outgrowth of all the work that he's led up there. So thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Next, I'm going to ask Susan Rogani to come on up. Susan is the division head
Thank you, Jim.
of our Water Engineering and Technical Services division. This is a really cool effort that we're doing. When we talk about infrastructure reliability, it's not just replacing things like rotovalves, but it's also delivering construction projects on time. And we have, in a lot of our projects, deadlines to meet, but in otherwise, it's just our policy to change out, whether it's main line, in the street, larger trunk lines, buildings and other facilities. It's just our policy to deliver that as soon as we can. So there are different ways to do that, and there's more innovative ways, and one of them is what Susan's going to be talking about. Within the charter of the City of Los Angeles, there has to occur certain ordinances to allow us to unlock the ability to use these different delivery methods, and that's really the action that's before you today, is to send down to City Council the ability to have an ordinance written for us to allow this. But Susan's going to go over the details of it.
So, okay, as Rich said, what you have before you actually it doesn't have to do with a particular project today, so there's no money associated with it, but it's pretty much to allow us to employ a different delivery process in order to get these projects done and achieve our capital program. Like Rich said, we have got a lot of funding for this, and so our big push is to know how to deliver it, and this is a vehicle in which we could deliver these particular projects. So typically what we've done in the past is we've done design, bid, build. And so that's where someone designs a project, then we'll bid it out for competitive bid, and you'll have somebody construct it. What we're talking about here is alternate delivery, where basically you have a earlier collaboration between the designer and builder, which is also helps in terms of your final product, and it also shifts. Actually, the risk is also not as much to the owner, but to actually design and builder. So we have employed some alternate delivery in the water system. There's different kinds of alternate delivery you see here. So you have the construction manager at risk, which you may sound familiar to you. That's Headworks. That's being done. That's CMAR. And we have the design build process and the progressive design build process. Progressive design build process that's the one we're going to be employing with the mainline trunk line infrastructure. So going to the next slide. Actually, it kind of shows just on a chart to explain what I was trying to kind of show you, but this is good on a chart. So design, bid, build is pretty linear. So you have someone designing, you have to do the bid and award, and a separate entity constructing. Alternate delivery, what that is you have some in-house design to about 30%. Then you go through a process where it's actually competitively bid out to contractors. They finish the design to 60 or 90%. Then there's a guaranteed maximum price that's negotiated. They finish the design, and then it goes into construction. The advantage is that you have the same entity designing it as well as constructing it. So if there's any issues between someone said, hey, I'm constructing this, but you messed up on the design, well, that entity actually has participated in the design. So it helps in the sense of getting a better product when you actually have to design that particular project. So what are we going to use these this alternate delivery for? So we have a few projects that are listed. We talked about mainline replacement, trunk line replacement. We have our operation and maintenance facilities, which are Valley and Western District. We have a water quality lab, and we have a water quality treatment facility at Fairmont Reservoir. So the budget is not to exceed $2.57 billion over 10 years. So it's quite a bit of infrastructure and water quality programs that we will hopefully embark on using this process. So, okay, what does that get us? It gets us the achievement of our goals. Of course, infrastructure has been a major goal for us as far as how to replace our linear assets, so this mainline trunk line. We continue to need to meet our water quality goals. Of course, it helps with the resiliency and reliability and to achieve customer satisfaction. Our yards, of course, are needed to be able to support the additional crews that will need to help get this infrastructure program completed. So how much does all this cost? So we have it broken down. Mainline replacement program, over $240 million over the 10 years. Of course, that's almost the 300,000 foot a year. That's almost 57 miles a year that they want to get to by 2023. Trunk line replacement program, that's $1.27 billion over the 10 years. So we hope to replace about 4 miles per year. And so the first thing the board will see is board award for the contracts sometime this summer. Okay, following that, we talked about the support that we need for the infrastructure because we need to have people supporting that. Mid-Valley Yard is a new operations facility anticipated to cost $430 million. That's new buildings appropriate to accommodate the staff. We're anticipating starting construction early in spring of 2020. Western District Operations Facilities is an existing facility. However, it needs to be upgraded and improved. So that also is needed to support our infrastructure replacement goals. That's going to come someplace in the summer of 2022. We also have our water quality lab. The current facility is in Pasadena. We would like to put a new facility within the city of Los Angeles. We anticipate construction sometime in the spring of 2021. And last but not least, we have Fairmont Reservoir Water Quality Treatment Facility. That is going to be in northern Los Angeles County. It's a sedimentation plant to treat LA aqueduct water, and we'd like to start the construction in spring of 2020. So basically, that's the end of the presentation. Do you have any questions?
I do. I'm just wondering how does this, and if so, how does this affect our union relationships, joint services staff? I would like personally to hear from the general manager about his opinion on this issue. Not just as it relates to joint services and our staffing, but just this ordinance request in general.
Sure, and I'll start and let Marty also contribute some of the reasons. When we go through major changes and issues like this, we sit down with our union, a Local 18, and discuss the portions that make sense for our staff to do, the portions that make sense for contractors to do, and sometimes the forward planning of where might it be best for us to grow some areas or shrink some areas, because we'll often find as we're looking ahead 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that we may maybe need to shift the size of some of our departments. You always want to have some staff in parts of a project to make sure that that design can, like design portions are being done in accordance with what we need. Some contracting parts absolutely can be almost 100% contracted out, but a lot of it you really do have a benefit by having your staff there as part of the design, part of the construction, because that staff is going to be doing the operations. So there's things such as safety by design where you incorporate safety aspects into the actual process by those people who are going to be working on it. So we do meet with them. They have agreed that this is a direction that's appropriate, that they support us going. And Marty, if you want to add some more to that.
Yeah, I guess wanted to note that, you know, we have growing staff ourselves. So we're at about 10,000 employees. We're looking to get to about 12,000. Within that, there are practical limitations in terms of how fast we can build staff, how fast we can train staff, because most of the work is specialty work. Andy particularly has a lot of challenges because you really have to learn this industry from the industry teaching you. And there's issues with where to house people. You know, we have challenges with yard spaces. One of the reasons that Susan's looking at this new yard in the Mid-Valley facility, the property we bought a couple years ago. And so we will be growing our staff. The reality is that there's so much work that has to happen so fast that if we continue to do our regular process where, you know, we design everything, bid it, then send out the construction either to our own crews or to contract crews, which we do currently, a combination of that, we'll just never get done. The mainline work will be largely done in-house like it has been. I see Breonia, Lindsay, and Jeff Bracey right there. They'll be the guilty ones, and then there'll be their successors. This 300,000 feet a year will go on forever because that is the only way we'll get to a sustainable lifespan for our pipe. So that's not work that's going to go and go away. That work's going to be there forever. The trunk line work is more one-time things. We have our own trunk line crews, but the amount of work that we have to do is something that we could never achieve by ourselves. And so doing this approach allows us to really accelerate, and also, as Susan said, it's not just, we could hire designers and then go to construction, but the process is much faster, much more efficient, and a lot more cost effective if we go with the design build mold, which is really what you're seeing going on throughout the world right now. And it's really a better way to leverage the resources that are available from the consulting and construction industries. But it's in no way going to cut into our own work and our own crews. We're going to continue to build, because when we're adding these people, that is to get us to a new level of infrastructure maintenance that we'll need forever on. And so that work will continue, and we'll need to add those crews, and we'll keep them busy for as long as we're Department of Water and Power.
And you discussed in the outline, and that, you know, the first of 2 steps is to create a request for qualifications for contractors. When will this be developed, and will this mature over the years, or once it's developed, are these the only vendors that are going to be contacted? How flexible? And I want to ensure that, you know, if we talk about 5 years with an extension for an additional 5 years, over 10 years, there may be many new appropriate vendors to work with.
Excuse me, Gwendolyn Williams, Department of Supply Chain Services. On this one, we have already gone out with requests for qualifications. We were very pleased with the number of responses that we had. For mainline, we got 10 proposers, and for trunk line, we had 9.
Yes.
Staff are currently in the process of evaluating those proposals and shortlisting and determining. And once we do that, we'll come back to the board with our recommendation of contractors for you to approve. Once you approve those contractors, as the work comes up, we'll issue task order requests for proposals and compete that work amongst the 10 people for main line or the 10 people for trunk line. And to your point about, will other contractors be able to come on board? We have that ability to do that because we know because it's a 10-year program, people could go out of business.
Right.
And so, yes, that possibility does exist.
I would like to hear, instead of that it may exist, that it will exist. I think it's really important for the department to continue to have the flexibility to increase that vendor base, especially when you're talking about projects that are estimated to cost our ratepayers close to $2.75 billion. So it's essential for us, I think, to be able to revise
We absolutely. Yeah.
that list. I would consider at least addressing that every quarter of the 10 years. So every 2.5 years.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Other questions, other comments? Commissioner Barad?
Thank you. I just want to be clear about the process. You've sent out the request for qualifications,
Right.
and it looks like you're going to pare this list down to a short list. Then that list of contractors comes to the board. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And we really don't want to eliminate very many contractors. We want to keep the competition as broad as we can. So it may be that the short list is the same list of proposers that were qualified there. We did an evaluation initially, and there was one mainline firm that was non-responsive and one trunk line firm. They were either non-responsive or they scored too low to be included.
All right. Is it the same contractor that will be doing all of these things, or is these projects, or will there be several that will be given the contracts?
There'll be several contractors. They'll compete. So I'll let Susan really speak to that. But as the work comes up, we'll issue a request for proposal for those 10 contractors, and they'll compete for that work. And then we'll choose whoever is I don't know how many segments.
Yeah,
A lot of segments.
Okay.
Yeah, because it says projects for mainline replacement program, trunk line, Mid-Valley and Western District operations, maintenance facilities, water quality laboratory, Fairmount Reservoir water
Susan?
quality
So,
treatment. So
Commissioner-
those are all different projects?
So Commissioner Barad, so when we went through explaining this particular process, this was for pretty much mainline and trunk line. The water quality lab, the Mid-Valley yards, those are going to be done a little bit differently, but for the mainline projects, we're going to have a suite of contractors, like Gwen said, 10 for each. And so we'll say, for instance, we've identified about 6 to 10 trunk line projects that we'd like to have constructed. So what will happen is when we're finished with the preliminary design, we'll put those out to the 10 contractors. They'll have to bid on those competitively or compete with them competitively. And then we'll decide who will get that particular trunk line projects. It'll be awarded to that particular contractor, and they will finish the design and do the construction. And so every time we have a new trunk line project coming up, it's going to be given to that suite of approved contractors, and they'll go forward. We'll have a separate process for, like, the Mid-Valley Yard, for the water quality lab, so that's going to be a different suite of contractors, so it's not quite the same. It's just a little bit different.
If I
And we
can-
have not issued those requests for qualifications for those projects yet.
So the one that you've done request is the trunk line.
That's the only
Is
one
that
so
the
far.
That's the major
That's the
project?
biggest one, yes.
So before you today, it's just requesting that we can go to council to get an ordinance to allow us to do the alternate delivery design or delivery method, okay? Once we're able to do that, then for each one of these facilities, we'll go out with separate contracts. And the only one that's, the one that's in front of the queue is to deal with trunk lines and main lines.
Okay.
I
And the one-
wanted to ask about, somewhere it says in here about that the city council, do they get the final list and they're the ones?
No, so what's going to, the action today is to be able to use this alternate delivery process requires an ordinance from the city because it deviates slightly from the normal charter provisions for getting competitive bids because it allows you to negotiate these construction contracts. So for our department or any other department in the city, you have to get an ordinance. The council allows you to use the process. Your board is the one that decides who the contractor actually is that actually does the work.
And what's a little bit different this time is we usually go one by one for asking for an ordinance, and we worked very closely with the mayor's office and the CAO's office to do it differently this time. So we're asking for approval for a number of alternative delivery project approvals at the same time so that we could save time.
Okay. Then I think that either I read this wrong or it's not correct, that it says somewhere that the final list goes to the city council. I'm looking for it, excuse me.
Well, as it normally does. I mean, we will approve here at the LADWP Board of Commissioners level, and then it goes on, for council's final approval, should they choose.
On the awarding of the contracts?
Yes, as the 10, right, the 10 firms.
Right.
That will be awarded. So as Gwen Williams has stated, there's 10 firms that we anticipate coming before you sometime in the summer to approve those firms to be able to participate in these particular projects. So once the board approves it, then it goes on to city council for their okay. So
For the normal process.
Oh, so
As
that's
a
the
normal process. So it's a
It's a normal
bench that
process.
we're establishing of those 10 firms. And once you decide that you're going to approve that award, it goes on to city council just like any other contract that
So then
you
the
would award.
projects will be submitted to city council for their approval, not the actual contractors.
No, the contractors also, but let's see, how can I? It's not anything different than our normal approval process. It's that, when we award a contract today, and you decide, you vote on it and you pass it, and then it goes on for city council, should they want to pull it for any discussion. So that the same thing will happen here. You'll we'll recommend 10 contractors to you. It'll come forward to the board for its consideration. You'll take a vote, and then it'll go over to city council as normal.
So the city council will know that these are the recommendations from the commission?
From this board,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. And as Gwen said, when you see the Western Yard, or the Mid-Valley facility, and the Water Quality Lab, those will be one project because they're one facility. The trunk line jobs, or the river supply conduit is one pipeline, it's 7 different jobs. And they're all in the tens of millions of dollars each. So each one of those segments could go to a different constructor. And so that's one reason that, as Gwen said, we want to keep the bench as large as possible. There's a lot of work, and there's no way that 1, 2, or 3 contractors can do all that. If we want to get this done, we need to engage as many companies that are qualified as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
I just have one final question. It states that the qualified contractors will be based on the contractor's ability to provide the best value to LADWP. Can you just elaborate? Is this going to be pretty much the same mechanism that you use in the point and grade system we currently use to evaluate proposals, or is it going to be different?
Actually, no. We came to you about a year and a half ago and asked you to approve a contract to award a professional services contract to a company by the name of Simplar, because we wanted to have them available to assist us with doing business differently, so that we could move forward to trying to really get the best value and find the best contractors. And I talked to some colleagues in other places like City Lights in Seattle, and they were very pleased with the response that they had gotten as a result of working with this contractor. So we've modified our solicitations a little bit. And so instead of us asking for proposals that were this thick, which most of our evaluators couldn't really get through, Simplar helped us determine what are the most important things for us to look at. So when we do the request for qualifications, we're really looking at narrowing down to look at asking the contractors to give us a risk assessment, where we're not defining what the risk is, but we're asking them, because of their expertise, to define the risk for us. We're also asking them to do a value assessment as a part of their proposal, where they will tell us, okay, this is what we've looked at as thinking important. You're the experts. What do you think is important? Some of the other things that we're going to be doing is, we used to only ask for references for the company. Now we're going to ask for references on the key personnel. So, because people are our most important product. And so we really are now starting to look at, show us who your people are, tell us what their experience is, and, make the commitment that they're going to be around when they do the project. And if they're not, then we'll have to go through another evaluation process at 5 years down the line. As you say, they may not be there, and we may have to consider someone else.
I think this is a great direction that you're leading. Just out of curiosity, once you review these more succinct responses, is there a committee that decides which companies are best suited for specific projects? How is that? How does
Yes,
that going to work?
we have an evaluation committee of about 5 people that are sitting in, and they've been trained by Simplar in terms of what to evaluate. The other thing that's very interesting about the solicitation, which is very different from the way that we've done business, is they're anonymous. They're not allowed to put their names on their responses.
Oh, I like that.
So we're trying to eliminate bias. The evaluators only see what the number is of the proposal. They've been advised that they're not supposed to talk to anybody about this evaluation process. There's a cone of silence around them. This, again, was the Simplar method that they introduced to help us, not to think outside of the box. I don't know if that...
That's outstanding.
Okay.
That pleases me.
If I could add a couple comments. I think it's important that DWP is proposing this new approach. We saw in last year's budget discussion and the financial results that capital spending was behind plan, and this is an approach that hopefully will help bring capital spending close to hoped-for plans.
Can I have one last?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious how you determine relevant experience, because it seems like this is such a large job, the trunk line. Where would a company have relevant experience doing a trunk line of that magnitude?
Well, currently we have a lot of trunk line projects actually going on now and also in the past, where they have put large diameter trunk lines in the streets like their city trunk line. I think you'd asked as far as about the construction there. The valley, there's quite a bit of construction. So we have a number of contractors that have that type of experience who've worked in our city, so they could and have submitted their names to this particular process because they are interested in, of course, doing this type of work, and they have done this successfully throughout the city for us.
So would that be similar to the company that's putting in the trunk line along Lancashire?
Yes, that's correct.
That's of the same magnitude?
Yes.
You most of the big firms that operate in this area have done work for us or know of us. There's a few that we don't see as often, but I would expect that anyone who's doing work currently would find a partner, an engineering firm, and bid on this. There may be other firms that come into the area. A lot of it depends on what the resources are, and you know, in terms of equipment and manpower and that sort of thing. But I think regionally we have a good handle on who does this work in this space. But because we're such a big guy, it's us, Metropolitan Water District, maybe the State Department of Water Resources. There's not a lot of folks that operate in this size pipelines, but there are quite a few companies that do construction, and they're all well aware of this program.
And frankly, I think a lot of them were excited about the new procurement process, and they were encouraged to participate in this solicitation.
Thank you.
Other questions, other comments? Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest.
Monthly reports, power system, December.
Your report is filed. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. I know that in the power system report, you mentioned the repair of the Vista switch. Could you please explain to me what these Vista switch are for and what are you repairing?
Okay, so on our system, our Vista switches are a 34,000 volt switch that isolates different portions of our circuits and act as protection for our switches and equipment. In this case, we were notified by our manufacturer that there was a possible issue in their process of development, and that a portion of the switch in May cause a problem and lead to a failure. You know, for the department, we have over 800 Vista switches in our system, and over the lifetime that we've used them, we've had 4 failures. So it's been a pretty reliable piece of equipment, but proactively, they gave us a time frame that these switches that may have the problem were manufactured, and we had about 214 of them that were manufactured during this time frame. So we've gone through and proactively, with the help of the manufacturer, reworking them. We've taken some out, sent them back. They're fixing them, sending them back to us. So we had a project to replace proactively all 214 of them. So we've replaced 200 of them so far. We have another 14 to do. And so sometime in the next 3 to 4 months, we'll have the remainder. But it was just a proactive project to protect our equipment and our employees and the public, to make sure that, you know, if there was a chance one could have a problem, we've eliminated it.
I know that there have been some folks that have come up to me with the issue with the Vista switch because it's quite costly for a small or medium-sized company to install a Vista switch in their operation. So I think I have bring this up to you and to the power system before, and what I would like to see is how can we revise, per se, this policy that we have to see if we can accommodate those smaller companies that do business with us that don't, per se, have the budget or the funding to install a Vista switch. And I also understand that this is necessary for the safety of our system. However, I know that there are other utilities that don't use a Vista switch, and I know that also other utilities don't have the same system that we have, but I think it will only be fair for us to look into what can we do around the Vista switch so it doesn't cause such a constraint to people that we do business with, and ultimately help us meet state goals on greenhouse gas reductions, and also on solar deployment.
Yeah, and we have currently a couple of pilot programs for the solar installations, where we're piloting with different vendors, and some other utilities have done pilots, and where they're installing the protection on the customer side, where we install it on our system. And so we've seen that has the ability to reduce that cost for the solar type inverter installation. So we have a couple pilots going on right now where we're testing that to see that it works. And if that pilot for the solar programs becomes effective, then we can look to expand that. So we're steadily working on that process.
And what is the timeline around to figure it out if these pilots do work and if we can change our policy around the visa switch?
I'll have to get that with you. I don't have that timeline. Marv, are you here?
Hello, Commissioner. Marvin Moon, Director of Power of Engineering. Our first pilot is almost nearing completion. That should be finished up next month. And then the second pilot just started. They'll probably be finished up around probably late spring, early summer, around June, July timeframe.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I did have a question on the power system. I don't attend the 100% Renewables Committee meeting, but I made a request for a demographic analysis, and I haven't received it, and I'd like to receive it. I know that I've been told that it's not available, or we can't ask for that information. That's not, to me, acceptable. There's a way around surveying or doing things in a way, so I'd like to continue that discussion. It's been 2 months since I asked, and I'd like to, rather than just going there and showing up and asking people, I'd like to get that information. I think it's important that we make that available. The second thing is our Chief Sustainability Officer part of that 100% renewable committee?
Rico, the 100% Renewable Committee, is Nancy Sutley a member of that committee? No, she's not.
Is there a reason that she's not?
So for the 100% advisory group, that was the 100% clean study that the City Council filed a motion for us to explore what is required. We have a number of members and different stakeholders within the community that are in the advisory group, not staff. We have the National Renewable Energy Lab that's running the process, but staff are not individual members of that group. We identified the groups, and the groups themselves identified which member, primary and alternate, would be their representative on this group.
So it's like, we really can't be a part of the committee because we're supposed to be somewhat removed from it.
Neutral,
is that right?
correct.
And that's one of the reasons I know with the demographic thing that we were just asked to get the organizations, it wasn't an individual, blah, blah, blah. So, so we're not really on that committee.
Correct.
We are providing space for it.
Correct.
Okay, great.
But I want to add on addition to what Commissioner Vanderberg just added. I think that the 100% Renewable Committee, the beauty of this committee is that for only a few times DWP has really been able to walk with community members and organizations to really come up with a plan together. In the past, the way that we used to operate was we ran some scenarios, we will present it to folks, and folks will give opinions. And I think that we're trying to change a little bit of that, and I think it is important for us to really understand, per se, who's missing in this group, or who do we have too much representation from, so that we can make it so that everyone has the chance to really participate in this study that can that will potentially change the face of Los Angeles and this department. So I think it's important not to only, I agree that we need in-depth study of the demographics, per se the socioeconomics, the gender, because those things matter. And I know that different organizations have representatives that are maybe don't represent their community, and I want to encourage you to connect with NREL or with whoever is necessary to really develop a survey that can give us that information, because that information is going to be helpful whether it's for us, which we are apparently now far removed, or for NREL to understand. I mean, this study is way too important. This is why we're required by the City Council to do it.
So if I could ask a point of clarification on the study, are we asking for the individual member participants' demographics or the organizations that they represent?
Let me, I'm the one who asked for it, so first of all, it's not, let me just clarify. I don't know what you think, Commissioner Vaughn. This is not in depth. This should take 10 minutes to prepare. I want to know the same thing, same criteria that we have for equity metrics. You have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've read the equity metrics,
Yes.
right? LGBTQ, self-identified status, racial status, ethnic status, gender status, educational attainment status, and that's it.
So it would be for the members of the advisory group to ask for a voluntary survey.
It would be the principals and then the alternates. That's the only disaggregation point. Otherwise, everything can be aggregated, so it's not. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to trace it.
So the representatives and the alternates. And I did want to mention, so this committee's been meeting for about a year.
Roughly, going on a year.
So we get clarification. Is the board asking that we reevaluate the groups that are participating and start over? Change? I want to kind of verify with because there's a discussion about we need representation, and it sounded like that there was the message was we needed to look at additional groups to attend that meeting, and it was a very specifically we were provided groups that would be appropriate, and there was discussion, but we can we can do anything, but it's important to know what.
Let me narrow the request, because I've made it in writing and I don't think it's being heard. I simply want to know what the status is. I want the data. It doesn't matter whether it's 30 white men. I just want the data. I don't. It's important to know who is on this committee and who the decision makers are. It can be 30 black men. I'm not trying to make a change as to the composition. I'm not trying to make a recommendation for it. That's already been decided. That was decided by the council when they made the directive. I simply want to know the numbers.
And I understood, okay. But Commissioner Vasquez, it seemed that you were indicating we should change, we should add additional representative groups to the process, and I just want to make sure if that's.
I think it's important to look at the data. I also remember attending one of the meetings for the 100%, and I remember other attendees also asking and requesting other folks to be part. That wasn't my request per se, but I remember being in one of these meetings and for other folks to say, it seems like this group is very heavy on a certain group. Why isn't other groups also here? So I think it's worth looking at it.
Okay.
But I think we can only assess that until we really see who's involved on a regular basis and who's not, and what's the makeup of those folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It just is that they meet Thursdays, so we can ask for this information on Thursday.
Financial Services Organization, October.
Good morning. Yes, the monthly financial report for October 31st is there in the file. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the report.
Questions?
I did. This is just a preview for the budget will be presented when?
So the great question. The preliminary budget for fiscal year 18-19 will come to this board. I believe the first meeting in March is what we're targeting right now.
First meeting in March?
Correct. And then the final budget would be coming back to the board the first meeting in May.
So to avoid asking in March, I'd like to ask now to make sure that there's a alternatives analysis done on the impact of the rates for increasing the funding for community-based organizations as a proxy for our outreach and proactive messaging and engagement for energy efficiency, water conservation, and sustainability that we're trying to engage all of the neighborhoods on. And a separate alternatives analysis for funding something akin to that through the Neighborhood Council MOU, DWP MOU. And I'll have some specific numbers in mind, but I'll look forward to speaking with the staff about that in terms of what the actual numbers might look like.
And what we'll do is I'll reach out to Joe Romalo and Mike Basich's group on the outreach side, as well as Nancy's group, and then water and power conservation, energy efficiency.
Excellent.
And we'll start working on that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Neil. Barbara, discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk, which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 23rd, 2018?
I think Commissioner
Well,
Thunderbird.
Commissioner Funderburk has a
Make the motion.
correction, but is there a motion to approve? I move it. Is there a second? Commissioner Funderburk.
Yes. On page, I don't know what the page is, but under item number 4, I made a request to that the staff work with Public Works Department based on a meeting I had had at City Hall about a month ago on creating an MOU or agreement on joint branding through the Watts Towers Arts Center, the ecosystem that attracts not just citywide but an international audience. That should be Public Works and Department of Cultural Affairs. I'd like to get a report back on that by the second meeting in March, please.
Is there any objection to including Commissioner Funderburk's correction in the minutes? Hearing none. Is there a vote to approve the minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
They are approved as corrected. Okay, we have currently items 11 through 27. Commissioner Vasquez is going to need to be recused on item 27. Are there any other items between 11 and 26 which any members would like to remove from the consent calendar?
What about item 26 for Commissioner Vasquez?
Yeah.
I don't think she needs to be recused for that one.
I think that as being appointed ex officio to the board, I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So any removals between 11 and 26?
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Item 26,
Yes.
has that been
This,
decided?
it has been, Commissioner Vasquez has agreed to take that position.
Okay.
Are you interested in
Yes.
doing that? Well, we should discuss that. So,
This is the first time in my tenure that I've heard 2 commissioners wanting this position, so I commend both of you, but this, I never in my wildest dreams have I would have thought that 2 commissioners.
I confess that I suggested Commissioner Vasquez because I suspected that the more senior commissioners would be less interested, and it's my fault.
Because we're so senior?
Yeah. Let's defer that one till later in this meeting and have
Don't
an
defer it too long, we're seniors.
offline discussion. Okay, so we're going to pull item 26 for the moment. Commissioner Noonan?
My only request, as we discussed previously, as it relates to item 22, I would like the resolution to state that the RFQs will be revisited every 2.5 years.
Any objection? Hearing none, that will be inserted.
Thank you.
Okay, do
I'd
we
like
have
to discuss number 14.
number 14? Hold on. Okay, 14 is removed. Any others? Okay, so is there a motion to approve items 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25?
So move.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Item 14, Commissioner Vasquez.
All right. So, Rachel. Okay, well, Andy. Thank you so much for preparing this. I have a few questions about this renewable biomass because, well, first of all, biomass is not renewable, just to start there. And can you walk me through why we need to do this purchasing?
Sure. So back in 2016, at the end of session, there was a piece of legislation that was passed that required the 3 investor-owned utilities, as well as municipally owned utilities serving 100,000 customers or more, to procure their proportionate share of 120 megawatts of biomass energy from facilities that were specifically named and primarily burn dead trees to help with climate change, forestry, infestations with insects, etc. It required 5-year contracts and initially wanted it by the end of the year. And the investor-owned utilities had already procured biomass facilities, but the publicly owned utilities had not. So immediately upon passage of the law, costs for these types of resources increased by 50%. They were about $150 a megawatt hour. They were just extremely out of the market.
I know.
So the energy portion under this contract, or 4 contracts of energy, is about $37.50. This is $97.50, and clearly it's not something that fit within our least cost best fit model, but it is pursuant to legislation. And I can tell you, in the current session, there was significant interest in whether the publicly owned utilities had met their obligations under this SB 859. So we actually accelerated the process and asked for the ED4 waiver before we brought it to the board, because we've been negotiating with various developers trying to bring down the price to where it's something more reasonable. We think we've done that. We brought it down about $50 a megawatt hour over what the initial amounts were, but it's also still short of our total requirement. So that's the history. It's not something we would do had we not had the mandate.
Right.
So most of these facilities are in Northern California.
So we're looking at 97.50 megawatts an hour.
Yes.
That this is, our ratepayers are going to have to pay for this. And I understand that we have a mandate that we have to, meet. And these are the kind of mandates that really hurt customers, like people like you and me, that sometimes don't even have, enough to pay for their bills. So, I mean, I feel like we need to approve this because we don't have any other choice, but I just wanted for the record that this is a mandate that is really hurting our customers. And that even though we per se don't have much to do at this point, I think that is fairly ridiculous that we're asking customers to pay for this much for electricity when we can purchase cheaper electricity in other places that is actually renewable. This is not a renewable, and I hope that whoever is listening out there, whether in our Channel 35 or in our live stream, knows that this we have to meet because we have to at this point. But me, personally, myself, the commissioner that represents all ratepayers, is like completely against this type of purchases. And I appreciate that you guys are sitting here and explaining. And I wanted, and I think earlier we met because I really wanted to understand this, and I was outraged to see these kind of prices on electricity for folks. But I think that at this point, you know, we have our hands tight, and you know, we have no other choice. But I just think this is really outrageous, and I wanted that on the record.
One thing I would like to point out, we're required to procure the biomass with a certain minimum production. So in the contract, one thing we did add is if the facility fails to meet their performance guarantee, they have to provide all that money back to the buyers, LADWP and our other partners within the project.
I mean, but how likely is that, right? I appreciate your, you know, explaining this not just to me, but whoever is listening out there, because I think, again, these are the type of policies that really hurt our ratepayers, and it's wrong.
That payback requirement is important because biomass facilities are not unknown for their performance problems.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Excuse me,
Aye.
I thought that the ratepayer advocate was going to discuss this item.
I did during my comments.
Yeah.
That was it?
This power is roughly 3 times the cost of the alternative. It's very expensive. This is an expensive mandate. It didn't do anything to clean up the power business. It's cleaning up the forest products business. It's a subsidy given by our ratepayers to the forest products business.
Well, then are you in favor of this or not?
It's a state mandate. We have to fulfill it.
What is your opinion? You have an opinion.
He just expressed his opinion, but we don't have any choice.
Right. That's your opinion, we don't have any choice?
Yeah.
Just like I just
Well,
expressed my opinion, and we don't have any choice.
Okay.
That's the problem.
If this comes up in legislation, we would be happy to back the city's representatives in saying this is a bad deal for LA ratepayers.
Right. So in light of the fact that we don't have any choice, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
You're an aye? Or you're a no?
I'm a no.
You're a no. It was passed with 1 no vote.
Okay.
Funderburk's not here. Vasquez votes no. The 3 of us vote yes.
Okay.
Okay, we now go back to 26. Appointing a member of the Water and Power Board ex officio on the Retirement Board. Those in favor?
Mr. Chair, would it be possible for us to per se discuss this and?
I discussed it with Commissioner
Okay,
Broad.
so is there peace on earth?
There's peace on earth.
Okay, excellent then.
Okay.
All I want is peace on earth.
Right, those in favor?
Peace and harmony.
Aye. Any opposed? It's approved. Okay, now Commissioner Vasquez, to ensure peace on earth, you need to walk out of the room while we vote on your travel. Resolution authorizing Commissioner Vasquez to attend a meeting on our behalf at 2018 Climate Leadership Conference in Colorado.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It passed. Council.
Yes. The board shall recess to closed session and shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member thereof in accordance with section 54.957.1 of the California Government Code.